never give up. I never give up. I never give up.
Hi guys, welcome back to my Steps to Sobriety, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stephan Neff. Today is another fantastic day because I've got Drew Delgado with me. And Drew is a man who has had a very interesting life, a very interesting journey, which turned him into a real man, defined in my books as someone who had to learn the lessons the hard way and was then willing to transform and is now out there to be the light in the darkness of others, to speak about his experiences, his trauma, his transformation in such a way to actually show that there is hope, that there is help out there, that the modern man needs to be comprehensive, also needs to be compressive. It needs to be, we need to learn how to be men again in an ever-changing society, ever-changing life. And it is a minefield. We're tap dancing in a minefield, but even more important that we're honest and open about it. And that's what I'm looking forward to. Drew, welcome to my show.
Thank you so much, Stephan. Thank you for having me. Wow, what an introduction. You better talk to my wife. I mean, I bet if you talk to my wife or something like that. But that is one of the...
She knows. Otherwise, you wouldn't be together now.
Yeah. No, I have a great life because of sobriety and because of an anonymous program. Definitely.
How did it all start? I mean, did you wake up one day when you were 5 and thought, nah, come on, I want to be drunk. I want to be.
No, it didn't. I was long before I was addicted to the drugs and the alcohol. I was addicted to your attention. I was addicted to your validation. I was addicted to all these things that I just felt because I had felt less than, right? So it started early. Like in hindsight's 2020, I didn't know this until I actually sat down and wrote stuff out, like we learn in the steps and things like that. So I'm speaking to you now as a man that has been sober for a minute, that has worked on himself through the program, but also with outside help as well, for sure. So when I speak, it's like some of the words, sometimes I even hear myself speak. It's like, wait, what did he do? How did you, what? And this is just everything that I do now. It's added to, and it's not instead of. I still do whatever I did 19 some years ago. I still do those same things, but I've just added a lot more to my plate. Reason for that is I've seen what happens to people that do things instead of. People that do things instead of, if you're a real one like me, like you, they end up getting sideways and they end up, and it doesn't end up very well for them. Usually they end up dead, which is obviously horrible. They end up in jail, which is the option, or they end up really just tearing down what they've built over the last. And one of my big things is because I have been sober for a minute, I like to work with men that have been around for a minute. They know the song and dance. They know the page numbers they can rattle off. They know the prayers. I'm not a big time guy, even though I've been sober for a minute, because I've seen guys go out with 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. So I'm not a big double-digit sobriety coin on my swinging from my chest and saying, listen to me, hey, check me out. Not at all. I believe we're all here in life in general on an even playing field. No one's better than or less than, especially inside the rooms, right? Because we all want one thing. We just want 24 hours. And so I never let that get too far ahead of what I'm doing. So it's like, back to like one of my big things that I work with is a lot of these guys is just looking in other areas of their life because, everything I have today should be just stamped property of Alcoholics Anonymous. This house, my kids, my wife, because I didn't have any of it when I came in. I was one of those stories. And so in order for me, I guess what I was saying back to like when they start doing instead of, we've seen the instead of, I'll go do breath work. I'll go do a plunge. Hey, that's fine. But I don't do that. I still do what I do. I wake up in the morning, I read, I pray, I meditate, I journal. I just do all that stuff. Everything else, cold plunge heat, I'm not against any of that. But the problem is when I see, especially when I'm working with a lot of guys now or the newer guys, they're like, well, what about this? And how about that? And it's like, yeah, you can do that. But here's what these guys did 80, 90 years ago. And this is here's the steps that they took. So it's, that's how I went off into, there's been a lot of stuff that I added to and never instead of. I've seen what happens to guys that add instead of. I'll go to church, or I'll go do this, or I'll volunteer more here. For me, that 10 step is just a powerful tool. The night when we retire at night is on awakening. Those are steps that should be continued for a lifetime, like it says in our literature, because my brain will always, well, maybe I could do this. Maybe if I just lost 20 more pounds, maybe if I just this, I'll feel better. I've always looked for something outside of myself to feel better. Hence the validation, your approval, like me. And I didn't come from a family that didn't have that. I came from a single mother, yes, but I knew what love was. I just always walked around with something in my mind, which I speak about now, kind of like what you introduced. It's like, now I'm at a point in my life where I've noticed there is men that are just suffering in silence. They're dying in silence. They're dying with the old, I'll handle it, I'll worry about it later, just push it down, repress it, and then it comes out in some sideways way. Even in men, it doesn't matter. Again, your time I'm not impressed by. Even men in sobriety, they get into other things. You get into other comforts, you get into other vices. And for men, speaking openly, it's not like a big secret. You're running to gambling, you're running to porn, you're running outside of your marriage, you're running in to your career. All these things that, again, would validate me as a man. Well, what is a man? Or what is, first, this program, our program gave me a purpose. First and foremost, at year one, the guy said, you have a right, you have a debt to pay, Drew. I'm gonna cry. You have a debt to pay for the rest of your life. And that's to stay sober and help another alcoholic, period. And you're one of these guys, Drew, that you're sicker than most and you're going to need this thing. So never leave. And this came from a guy that's seen me 4 years prior, in and out. I wasn't like, hey, I hear you're good. So let me check this out. And this is great. My life changed and everything is good. No, I struggled, man. I came in 4 years on the backs of everybody around me. Everybody helped me. I'm not I've earned my chair here guy either. You hear that shit a lot. No, my mother earned my chair. The people that I hurt earned my chair. My brothers, what they saw me put my family through, those people have earned my chair. I didn't earn shit. If I earned what I got, I'd be dead or I'd be in prison for the rest of my life. If I got what I thought I earned. So there's a lot of opinions around the rooms, and there's a lot of things that have absolutely nothing to do with what's in that 164. I'm a big proponent of what's in that first 164. I also like a lot of things that are in the stories too. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great things when we pray out of resentment, praying for someone. That's a story. That's not in the first 164. Nowhere in our literature in the first 164 does it talk about making my bed, but you know what? I make my bed still. So there's a lot of suggestions around here too.
Yeah.
It's a monkey see, monkey do program, Drew. Just make sure you're following the right monkey. That's what these people told me. They told me to stick with the winners, Drew. Another thing you hear, right? Stick with the winners. Well, that means there's some fucking losers around here. And there's some con artists. There's some predators in here. But this is, when we come here, it's not the bedrock of mental health.
No.
It just isn't. And I thought me coming from the world I came from, which was criminal. I'm 52 with the story, you know what I mean? And so where I came from, when I saw these people smiling, I'm like, oh my God, everyone's great. Everyone's perfect. Everyone's this,
No.
but it's just not, we're not, I'm not. Again, because I could rattle off some page numbers and I could say this and make some funny quotes, and I could tell you the Bhagavad Gita, I could tell you what Gandhi said, I could tell you what Buddha said, I could tell you all these interesting things that I've heard and learned here. I'm still stuck with the spiritual malady today. Every morning I get up every morning and people say, oh my God, how could you say that? Easily. I get up every morning in fear. I get up every morning. And I think the first few years of me being sober, I said, "Oh, I can't wait till I just wake up and it's all perfect and I'm floating and I'm this." I think that was like expelled during year 4 and year 8. That's what I was striving for. Once again, I was striving for perfection, right? I wasn't striving for anything but that, and I was just missing the mark. I just thought it would be like that. So I say that not to scare anybody, but I say that because I'm human first and foremost. Yeah, I'm addict, alcohol, I'm this, I'm that, I'm all these other things, 100%. But I'm human. So I wake up in fear. So to get out of that fear, there's certain rituals, certain things, which I think what you said, this lack of these men, real men, whatever you want to say, is it's becoming, it's a thing. It's literally like here in the States, there's a lack of good leaders. There's a lack of good role models. There's a lack of good coaches. And I think that's due to the lack of ritual, the lack of initiation, the lack of single fatherless kids. You know what I mean? No one's there. If you look at old ancient traditions, you were initiated into manhood. It was a very special ceremony that took place. We've gotten further and further away from that. I have my own opinions why and what, and this doesn't matter, but it's just a fact. Right now we're in America, we're at the highest rate of single mothers that we've seen in our forever, in our lifetime.
Well, okay.
There's fatherless homes. So when there's no father here, and you hear about it, like, hey, where does the kid go? He goes out to the streets, the gang, and then he gets in that, but he's just not, they're just, there's just a lot of young men out there that are lost and suffering in silence. What they're getting from now, what I got from then was, TV. Oh, I thought, I'm 52. So, like I said, my biological father split when I was 2. My mom raised me until another man, she remarried at 8. But during that time, I noticed that being a single mother, latchkey kid, put in front of the TV because I was a hyper kid too. I lost myself and I was into fantasy and my identity, like I said, Mork and Mindy, the Fonz, like all those programs, Courtship of Eddie's Father. That's what I thought a dad was. That's what I was always been searching, always been wanting. You know what I mean? I thought, oh, that's what I'm supposed to have. That's what a dad is. Where's mine? Why don't I have it? Going to parent-teacher conference with only one parent. I'm different from you. Automatically at a young age, I'm already noticing, okay, hey, wait, I'm different. 2 parents. What's going on? Why am I different? Why am I weird? Hence me always looking and searching for your validation and for your love and for your acceptance, and beating my head when I couldn't get it. And that just went on. That need for approval and that need for acceptance took me down the wrong roads as I got older, because I was always attracted to the gangster and to the quick money, the fancy women. Again, I was drawn in. Now I'm getting older. Now I'm drawn into like movies like Colors with gangs, Scarface, The Godfather. Now what's being programmed in my brain is money, power, sex, control, manipulation, like all that shit. Now that's what's raising me. You know what I mean? Even though I tried to have some positive, role model, I didn't grow up like a wolf in the streets or anything, but I did have some positive role models. But everything else was blaring this. That's why now with these kids with social media, I get it, man. You go on a video, you see this, you see TV programs, like it's no wonder why. Yeah. I know you're next to down under, but I don't know. It's no wonder why, like, we are in the state we are with men. So where I'm at now in my life, there's so much. But being a father, I got my son is 6, my girls twins are 4. I'm 52. Me and my wife have been together for 8 years. Like, it's important for me to keep my family unit together. One of the hardest things I have to do. People are like, okay, they always ask me, or some of the young, what are you working on, Drew? What are you working on now? If you're always constantly doing this work, right now I'm working on intimacy. I'm working on true partnership. I'm working on what that is to be. It's easy to be a dad. I mean, it's not easy. Who doesn't love their kid? It's easy for me to be the father that's doing this, doing that. Look at, he's such a great dad. Oh my God. Again, all that. But ask my wife how I am when we have to communicate. Ask my wife how I am when when I have to speak, when I have to actually show my feelings and my expressions. Again, because being around here for a while and being successful in a career, I could shuck and jive and I could move and talk and everything's great. But if I ever have problems at night when I'm retiring at night, I'll ask my wife if I need to work on anything or any character defects. You know what I mean? Because she'll let me know, like, okay, why don't we talk about this or ask my mom, ask my mother, the poor woman that I made suffer all those years worrying about me. How my patience is when she calls me after 10 minutes on the phone with her, how I'm just either ready to hang up on her or ready to get out. You know what I mean? Like, how's the spiritual life? How's your spirituality doing there, Drew? How's your spirituality doing when the lady in front of you on the 15 items or less line has 20 items? You're counting the little old lady's items on her thing. Like, how's it then, Drew? Like, how's the things that you could look like such a great guru inside the rooms and then go outside the rooms? Like, that's where real life happens. That's where the test is, right? It's out there. It's like, it's easy to stay sober and promulgate the good, this and that inside, because I know it. I'm programmed in it for 19 years. But how am I taking what I've learned there and living out here? How am I as a father?
That is exactly that definition of integrity. That is how you behave when no one is watching. Okay. Right. So, and we are often, I mean, for Christ's sake, I was always a hothead. I still am. I can control it much, but not when I'm behind the steering wheel. No, in the car, if you don't drive within a nanosecond of the roundabout getting free, I'm and it's just, we all have got these weaknesses. We all have got those things, but that is the insights. I think much that comes in sobriety is that our emotions, they become more real. They become the wave of neurochemicals that are normal for you. You can't somehow wish them away. You can't somehow say, oh, I'm now, I don't know, in my 50s and I want to live that and that life. Therefore, no, you wave of emotion, go away. I hate you. Bullshit. It doesn't work like that. It's still there. It's your makeup. Your adrenaline's little sparks, and it's being pushed by buttons. Oh, fuck's sake. You might not even have figured them out now. And you will not able to figure out some buttons until you're dead, for crying out loud. But that's life. That's life. We never will be perfect. Never, ever. And by giving you actually that peace, that knowledge that no, you will never be perfect. So stop trying so hard and just be you, but be the best version of yourself. Accept your weaknesses. Maybe turn them into strengths, because that's what you and I are doing. Our weakness was our addiction. Now it's our superpower, because we know where we came from. And now we can change. We can actually raise awareness of the fact that we are who we are.
And that's what it is like for me now. Like I, obviously what that guy told me, I take to heart, but now it's like to help everybody, my like goal, my mission, my credo is to build the man I always needed, always wanted, and gift him to the world.
Nice.
To the world, it's easy to gift it to my kids, to my wife. Yes. And that's what I want to do. That's what I personally want to do. But you gift that man to the world. You figure out what's ailed you your whole life and tell about it, speak about it. We're on social media now, like reach out, let people know. There's a lot of people, the suicide rate is everything is just, the world is at a different place. And it's not like we are, it's not like we're saying exercise, get some sunlight, get out, move. No, stay in. Here, take this pill. You'll feel better. You're depressed. You're anxiety. Look at all the things that's being like programmed for kids to, again, like just like I was programmed. They call it programming for a reason, right? Like the depression, the kids that are on medication, like, and that's just the next generation of men that are going to be, leaders or they're not going to be leaders, or there's going to be, it's just going to be an interesting time. So again, one of my big things is figure out what's ailed you, how you fixed it, let people know, and then help others. It's kind of like what we learned here, right? Get sober, help someone else, and we just keep passing that on, and we keep doing it. And I think with you're down in New Zealand, I'm up here in the States. It's like look at the power. Some people are down or don't like all the technology. I do think it's a lot of information, but look at when it's used for good and how we can speak and talk. And with what I do now with Dads of Dads, I hope fathers all around the world again. And it's just to start a conversation. One of my biggest things why it was hard for me during those 4 years when I was in and out, it was hard for me to say, hey, I have a problem. Hey, I need help. And the third thing still, which is today, is say, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? It's still hard for me to say that. Again, let's just refer to my wife. You know what I mean? Let's just ask my wife. Better yet, okay, you're single. Let's ask your coworkers. Let's ask your employees how you are. Let's you could, if you want to talk that high-powered spiritual stuff, let's ask them how the spiritual life's doing for you.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. No, and it is but then again, you are quite right. We need to address those things in our lives. We have to live more intentionally. Don't just be a flotsam on the top of some fast moving river, but no, actually try to get back in the driver's seat, try to find a paddle and actually say, okay, there's a lot of shit going downstream, but we have the power to steer. And that is, I think, so important. We can do that, but it takes habits. I loved what you said initially with you're still making your bed. You were referring to some of the things that we learn in our early sobriety. This is, I think, yes, of course, it's part of sobriety, but more importantly, it's part of living your life intentionally, regardless of addictions, regardless of mental health. If you actually go out there to live your life to the fullest, that means that you take every moment as the gift that it is, and every moment as an opportunity for choice and an opportunity for taking action. Once you start a life like that and make it literally, what can I do right now to become a better man, to become a better husband, father, man, whatever you wish to do, it's an opportunity. And therefore, I love the habits that you introduced. What are some of the other habits that you take care to stick to, or that you recommend the other dads to get into the habit of?
Okay, so it's different. People come to me with what I do with different, I'm kind of, there's different thing. I work a lot with around nutrition, and I work a lot with, because I believe, especially for people that have us, like if I'm allergic, it's talked about as like an allergy. So if I'm allergic to a certain thing, obviously with the alcoholic and the drugs and stuff like that, I really started looking at like how I was what I was putting in, what I ingest in my body, let's say like that. Okay, so I'm very aware of what I ingest, not only through my mouth, through my eyes, I guess through your nose and through your ears, and who I surround myself with. So that's something when I'm working with someone, what am I ingesting, right? Am I ingesting propaganda through TV, through this, through that? And I have no bias, I have no judgment on it, but I just don't do that anymore, right? I have done it, and I had to look at myself like 6-7 years ago and say, okay, I'm emotionally not capable of reading something, seeing something, and just going about my day. No, that's consuming me. Now you're going to pay, and I'm going to show you, and it was too much. So that's one of the things. And I had to, and it's not hard for me to admit, I have to look at something. And if it's affecting me in any way, I'm now going to be bringing that home to my children and my wife. It doesn't matter. Right. So what I ingest in my body, what we ingest in our bodies, what I work with is key. So Through the nutrition, that's easy because it's not easy. That's the hardest thing. But through whether I want to turn something on, whether I want to scroll, how much am I screen sucking? You know what I mean? Like that's just versus how much am I maybe exercising, or how much am I just taking a walk? Like how much am I just here in front of this computer, the blue light, all this stuff. So I will look at what I'm ingesting and who I'm surrounding myself with. If I'm surrounding myself with people that are always just constantly, blame this, blame that, this, look at what he said, look what the government, look at like that has nothing to do about anything. So again, ingesting. And when I'm working with guys in our secret society, in our club, it's one of the first things I look at. One of the first things I say is, okay, write down how your day was. Let's talk about it. I get I make it a lot more personable now too. Just because I can get to cause and effects a lot quicker when I start talking to them and start getting to know them. I have myself, and the guys that I work with that are on my program, not in AA program, but the program that I teach around mindset and personal development. It's 4 non-negotiables. It's a wake up time that you can commit to. So if I say I'm waking up at 5, alarm goes off, I'm up. I'm not like snooze. I'm not this. The big thing why that is because that's the first thing where you can start calculating a little win, right? If I hit snooze 3 or 4 times, now I've already negotiated on my word. If you break your word to yourself, you start breaking your word to yourself in the littlest things throughout the day.
Love it.
You have just smashed your self-pride, your ego, your worth, all of it, because you didn't do what you said you were going to do. So it's easy. It's a wake-up time. Yeah. Let's start with the wake-up time. My wake-up time is 4 a.m. And the reason why I do this is because once my family's up, I can't get anything done. Okay. So I got to get as much done as I can. But you listen, or you talk to, or hear the Tony Robbins, the Ed Milet's, the Grant Cardone, like all these high functioning guys, they wake up early. If you were to wake up an hour early for a year, you'd have like 3.5 weeks, an hour early. 3.5 weeks to do time to do something. And a lot of these high performance guys know that time is everything. Because we don't know how much time we're going to have, right? So time is a very important commodity, better than money. I don't care. You have I work with, successful, wealthy, blah, blah, blah men, and they would do they would pay millions of dollars for 10 years to set the clock back 10 years. They would give it all up. Some of them have said, I'd give everything. If I could go back to my 20s right now, knowing what I know, I would give everything up and go do that and just replicate it. That's how they think. So time is money. Time is everything. Because we don't know how much we're going to have. I would learn that from Rick Warren. Rick Warren's the most important thing you can give someone is your time, because you're never going to get it back. So when you give someone a piece of your time, that's like, wow, that's better than a piece of gold, money, a bond, like anything. So I have a big respect around people's time. And when I say I'm going to do something, all that stuff. So it's a wake up time. Sorry, I go off on a tangent. So it's a wake up time.
Important.
So
I love that.
I'm waking up, non-negotiable, whatever. We set a time, whatever time's good for you, but it can't be a time that's easy for you to either, because your level up, your growth doesn't come in comfort. Your growth is never going to come while you're just chilling and kicking back and not thinking about everything. It's going to come at times of adversity. It's going to come at times that it's going to come when it's hard. Look at how diamonds made. Look at the pressure and the heat that needs to happen in order for a diamond. When you forge steel, look how many times it has to be hammered, heated, hard, intense, so it has to be hard for you. If you're waking up at 6 already, don't tell me your wake up time's at 6. No, we're going to scale it back. Right. So it's a wake up time. As soon as you wake up, then you get into, because a lot of guys I work with aren't in the program, but it's very kind of program-esque. It's funny. You'll notice the correlation. So then you wake up and then you read something. It doesn't have to be a book. It could be something positive. It could be something spiritual. It could be something, just something where it's going to put you in the right frame of mind. That's going to get you out of that scarcity mindset. A lot of the men I know that wake up like me, we wake up in fear. The bills, the kids, how am I going to do this? What's going to happen? The bank, my check, like all these things. So immediately, and you don't go to social media. You don't wake up and do this. Like you don't wake up and start scrolling, because then you're screwed. That's another like non-negotiable. But the main things is the wake up time, automatically get into some type of reading, journaling, right? That's 2. And then the third thing is if you can, and that's why, again, for the early wake up time, especially for fathers, is to get into some type of hypertrophy workout, some type of just quick workout to get your brain elevated, the cells, the blood, everything going to lift, to be lifted up, right? What that looks like, it's like, I'm not going to the gym. I don't have time. Good. Push-ups, burpees, sit-ups, body weight exercises I like the best, because you can do it at home, in another room, in the garage, in the front room, wherever you can do that. So that's number 3, a workout if you can. And then number 4 is you just track your macronutrients. You just keep good nutrition. Usually, because of one of those vices that I spoke about earlier, the porn, the food, you get into, it's the sugar, the other, now. What I've noticed too, again, this is just an observation. I like to say I'm a social observer. I'm not judging you. Social observation, though, after about 15, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years of remaining sober, you do start putting on a little bit of the weight, right? It's because we are not very conscious, or we comfortable. So let's knock some of that out. Put it this way. I've never heard anybody say, God, I feel horrible now that I've lost that 10 extra pounds. I want it back. Let me go sit at the donut bar at the meeting. Let me go hang out at the donut bar with the other old timers. No.
Exactly.
So we look at your body, your composition, and see where you're at too. And then how your nutrition, how you're eating, like how, again, what you're ingesting. If you're ingesting just crap calories, 10,000 calories a day of just garbage, it's no wonder why you're waking up in a fog. It's no wonder why you're operating from a scarcity mindset. So a lot of the things, so that's the 4 non-negotiables anyway. I could go off into a whole thing about that. Sure. But those are the 4 things that we focus on to put you ready to go. So when the rest of the world's waking up at 7 or 8, you've already stacked wins. You're already on a winning streak, right? You're not just waking up. You're just not coming to, like we hear that they say, you have a good game plan going. And then, obviously from our blue literature, it says we think about the next 24 hours a day, your plans, your designs, what you want to do. And then we start writing. Pen to paper is always better than mind to mouth. And I heard that from an old timer, right? Pen to paper is better than mind to mouth. What I've recently learned, as of like 3 years ago, some guys like, Drew, you know why you write things out? Well, I'm like, no, why? It's because you're spelling. You're casting a spell when you're writing. I was like, all right, I like that. I've never heard that, but I'm going to take that, So when you're writing, not when you're texting, not when you're putting it in your notes, not when you're actually spelling, it's a spell that you're casting out in the universe. And it's going to you're going to be able to more stick to it, and you're going to remember it a lot more than, again, mind to mouth, because mind to mouth is easy. And I'm in sales, so I love mind to mouth, especially when it's about me. So those are the 4 like non-negotiables that I do now, added to what I do. Inside that second part of my non-negotiables, what I do is I pray, I meditate. I think my creator for this. I go through that whole thing too. But for someone that isn't in the program, that's just coming to what I do, Dad of Dads, is that's the 4 things to get your day going. So and some people have no problems with the macro. Some people have no problems with nutrition. Some people have no problems with the wake up. Maybe the workout's hard, but everybody can see what their hardest part is, and then we just we hyper focus on that, and then we tweak and do that. We really put the screws to what that looks like for you. Some people can't wake up. I can't wake up. Well, that's why can't you wake up? Oh, well, I binge watched till 2 a.m. Well, okay, that's why you're not waking up. And what you notice is throughout that there's some habits that you're currently in that just need you need to just a different programming. You just need to start looking at a change of perception, right? You just need to start doing things a little bit better if you ever want to level up. And that's the key word everybody uses. If you ever want to level up and go to that and grow into that next version of you, because my whole thing with Dads of Dads is to build the man you've always needed, gift him to the world, but also be the father that you always wanted. All the men I work with, Stephan, have issues around father growing up. And it doesn't even, I had, like I said, some of my clients are very prestigious, very well known, very wealthy, very this or that. Their dad was there physically, monetarily, but he wasn't there. His presence, he wasn't there. He wasn't there. He wasn't connecting with them. He was always in the background. He was
Guilty as
always
charged. Guilty
They
as
didn't. They didn't
charged.
come from his dad. They didn't split up, but his dad was always out working. So providing for the family, and he just wasn't there. He wasn't there to say, "Hey, how's your day?" or "Hey, what's wrong with you? I noticed you seemed a little down when you got home. Is everything okay?"
Mm.
So
Beautiful.
again, that awareness, bringing that awareness to the vibration that you bring home is another like big thing to me. And that's another thing that I work a lot with men on one-on-one, because it's hard for them to, sorry about that. It's hard for them to speak like that, because who speaks like that? If you've never been spoken to like that, that just doesn't come to you like, oh yeah, you know what, my days, it wasn't like I was pulling up to the Connect's house, sitting down, getting busy and getting down and getting low and say, hey, by the way, guys, I'm a little, I don't feel good. My relationship right now, I'm a little financially insecure right now, guys. Everything was good, party, it's on, it's, that's how I lived for so long. So, for me to come in for the first, again, at times nothing, but for the first handful of years, it was just it looked a lot different. My scope was just, I've changed the clicks on my scope just to see things in a different light, to bring some stuff that was in the foreground. Okay, just to bring it up and really hyper focus on it.
Yeah.
For me, it's important. For me, one of the most important things, obviously, to stay sober and help someone else. Yes, that's my purpose. But for me, it's to be the father my kids need, deserve, the husband my wife deserves, and then help other men, because I know there's a lot of men, and I learned that being I'm a later on in age father, but I learned that in the rooms and in sobriety, because you hear these guys coming in like in men's meetings, you hear a lot more stuff of what really goes through minds. I'm like, man, that's one of the things I do not want to be. I don't want to be, and again, no judgment, social observer, but I don't want to be all this guy with 20 years and on my fifth marriage, or 20 years and now I'm screwing around with hooker. I just don't want to be that guy. I want to be when a young man comes in, then he's dying from alcoholism, that he has an example aesthetically, mentally, and spiritually of what it looks like to stick around here for a while. I always was like weary of going in and seeing this 300-pound man telling me about discipline and do this and do that. It's like, bro, you can't even like control what you're putting in your mouth. Like, what are you talking about? And some people are like, Drew, that's so wrong. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be healthy and look healthy. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm a big proponent of, if you're not happy with your presence, you'll never truly be present. Fact. You won't.
Nice.
Mentally, spiritually, emotionally, you just won't be. Monetarily, like, so what? Like, you got this, you got that, you got the jet, you got this, but you can't be there. You can't be present, because you know that that tits in a belly on a man aren't what it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? You know that, and you're bringing that energy to your kid and your family. I work a lot around nutrition. If you haven't already noticed, I work a lot around nutrition, again, because you'll never truly be present if you're not happy with your presence. Straight up. And I'm not talking about, of course, you're not going to grow if you want to be 6 feet tall, and if you're 5'10", you want to be this, you want to be darker if you're lighter if you're dark, because the grass is always green on the other side. But something with your nutrition, you can control. You can control the physical, and that has so much to do with us as humans on how we operate, especially with all the food, what's in food and additives and everything like that. So I'm a big proponent on nutrition, and I really focus on macronutrients.
Nice. Absolutely 100% true. And it is that directly impacts how you are, because it's not for nothing that we call ourselves sometimes hangry. I'm hungry and angry. My wife was exactly the classic thing. She would go to church on a Sunday morning and then come home because she hadn't had breakfast. She rushed to church. And whilst she has had some good feelings there, at the moment she came home, I was on the receiving end there of hangry. Classic example. The other thing, of course, is if you are struggling with your emotions and you are going on a sugar binge, and that might be as much as one donut, okay? So your blood sugar goes up to the sky, and then insulin drives it down and goes really low. Guess what? Your emotions will follow suit, okay? So
And a lot
therefore,
of people,
yeah,
a lot of people aren't aware of that. A lot of people have no idea, no clue. I had no idea, no clue. Granted, in my first like 2-3 years, I gained 60 pounds. And then talk about like and then I share this. It's no, I'm not, but yeah, okay, I'm not dying and hanging out. Yeah, and I was stoked. I was just big fat happy kid, but I was happy to not be living and doing that. But now I'm looking like I'm just, unrecognizable, and I'm like, oh, I gotta, what am I gonna do? And it was like, well, at least you're sober. At least. So I hung my hat on that. Well, I am sober and I'm not putting people in danger. I'm not putting myself in danger and putting needles on. So I am grateful for that. But and I don't even know if I had someone that would point some of these things out, like you just said to me, if I would have even taken heed. But that's like a lot of what I promulgate to when I'm working with guys in the program. It's like, okay, I tell them that now that I didn't get sober to catch diabetes, third stage diabetes. Like
yeah.
I didn't get sober to stay sober 10 years, and now because I wanted to keep smoking, and now I'm vaping that I've got lung cancer. I can get that almost anyway. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna do all these things, and it's not gonna be bulletproof. I'm not gonna be not bulletproof to diabetes or to all these other things, but I'm also not gonna add to that. You know what I mean? It's like mind, body, spirit, that triangle. It's a very old symbol, right? Unity Recovery Service. Like people think that the body part of that triangle just means abstinence. No, it means taking care. It means rest. It means like making sure. That was one of my big things too with having children at a later age. Like, no, I want to be around running with my kids at 60, at 65, at 70. I don't want to have them like being wheeled in diapers. I mean, that still could happen to me, granted, but if I'm going through drive-through still, I'm 52. If I'm still doing that and having donuts at meetings and cookies at break and this and that, I'm just like thrashing myself. And again, I know now from experience, not from a textbook, not from someone telling me, that my body chemistry changes and it can't handle things like that. Maybe in my 20s, early 30s, it could, but I didn't have the life that I have today. What does that mean, Drew? I didn't have the pressures of life, of fatherhood, of being into a high functioning relationship, with a kick-ass wife and mom and alpha type A personality woman that's a boss. You know what I mean? So it's like I got to look at all that stuff that I'm again absorbing or allowing into through my eyes, through my ears, through this. I can go off and listen to like whatever or binge watch on whatever. But I still to this day think that I'm that whatever. If I'm listening to rap music, I'm walking out the house thinking I'm like Tupac or Biggie, and I'm gonna go take on their like seriously. And I love that. I work out to that. But that's just an example of like I could still get caught up in fantasy. The book talks about, getting we don't know fantasy from reality or something like that. It's like yes, I could still, or I hear some things or and just still walk out, you know what I mean? Or drive down and think that this, that, or that. And it's just, no, that's not reality. But I love fantasy. I've always loved fantasy. I've always loved make-believe. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think that if you're a creative, you get a lot of stuff from being a dreamer and an outside the box thinker. So I think that's good. But I do think that somewhere along the way that we traded our innocence for that. And, so now we don't do it, but I that's something I actually like. And one of the things that I do with the men that I work with, it's like, how, think back when you wanted to be this and you thought that and you thought this and, talk to that. A lot of it's like psychotherapy type of stuff, but bringing you back to those and connecting those brain stamps of like, wow, yeah. I did used to think that, oh my God, now I am, because of this. A lot of it's mind. I work on a lot of mindset, to have the proper mindset to go into things. So, and what I find out that happens when people come to me, because they either come to me because they want to, outside, not so much. I don't push obviously the sobriety, even though people know that I'm sober, but usually they want a weight goal. They want like they're having problems in a relationship. They're having problems in this, that, and the other thing. Usually, it's always a lot of that stuff is always tied back to mother-father issues. So that's another thing we get to look at, and I only know that or do that because I've done a lot of psychotherapy workshops and things like that. And those are the first relationships you ever know is your mother-father, or not know, or absent of, was that. So it's a lot of I know it's your podcast sobriety. It's like there's so much more that I do than just staying sober, because if people just sat around and just stayed sober, it would just look a lot,
No.
It's so much more to me than, and when I first got here, that's all I wanted to do. I did not want to put a needle in my arm or a drink in my mouth.
But that's the first year. Then in the first year of sobriety, that's all we can think about. And then you come to a point, and now I'm sober, so what? I was like an empty canvas. I was an empty shell of a man. And now the question is, who did I want to be? And this is actually a beautiful opportunity for you to explore, who you were prior to that. And you were probably not very proud of that person. But now you've got this empty canvas. So who do you want to be? And it can be anything, really. The problem is that often we exchange one problem with another. So you were referring already to the 30 or 60 pounds that you gained. That is very, very easy to do because we just exchange the sugar or the alcohol for the sugar. And then if you realize the sugar is not good and it's good to be healthy, then you do 4 hours exercise a day. Well, guess what? You're just becoming one holic you're just changing the holic with a different prefix. Okay. So no. So that is obviously not the right way to go. I love the way that you're focusing on the nutrition. So that's the key thing. And I think that we often feel that we are powerless and that we don't know what to do. Every single day, we eat at least 3 times a day. And every single time, you have got choices that you can make. You can actually do some meal planning on a Sunday, which shows leadership and demonstrates a new role that you take in the household. You're not reactive like I don't know. You just whatever happens, you react to it. No, you're actually trying to predict. Okay, we all have to eat this week, so let's take some meat out, take that out, prepare that and that and that. So
I love that you say that. I love that you say that because that's one of the big things I work with men. It's like you want to learn to be more responsive than reactive.
Yeah.
Because men, and again, I work a lot with men and fathers, so I speak. Sorry if I'm speaking from that point of view, but it's like you want to learn to respond and not react. And I just react. That's all I've ever. That's all, and especially when we're in our active addiction. Yeah, we're not responding, we're reacting. But even now, it's like I found myself just reacting, flying off the handle. And to your point with nutrition, a lot of it has to do with what I've eaten or haven't eaten. It just does. And I'm not looking for why. Well, why is that? What? No, I'm just looking for, again, just like when I got sober, that no, I have to know that and realize that. We learn a lot. HALT, right? Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Don't get too hungry, angry, lonely, tired early in sobriety, so you don't go out and use, so you don't do this, that. But now it's like really being able to, with what you spoke about earlier, with what I build is, building a comprehensive man. And what my definition, Jason Wilson talks about a lot, is what a comprehensive man is: just a man who is the ruler of his emotions.
Nice.
Not in control of his emotions, but a man who is a ruler of his emotions, good or bad. Like I said, it's easy to be grateful when things are going your way, but how's your emotional state when they're not going your way, when you're running late, when the kids aren't getting ready, when you've told them 70 times to brush their teeth, the dog's barking, your wife's this, she's paging you, she needs this. Like, how is it? are you remaining calm in all the chaos? Like that's again the mindset of what I want to work on, because the longer you stay, the longer people stay sober, they start getting like, oh, a little job. I got a house. I got this. I got this. I got that. I got that. Now you have so much going on. The second part of our first step, the unmanageability, that goes through that. The first part of that first step, powerless over alcohol, our lives have become manageable. The first step you got to get, but the second part, there's no like, okay, now that that's done, what do we do now? The unmanageability is, if you're a real one like me, it goes throughout your whole life. You see it a lot. 5, 10, they build a career, they're doing good. Well, now they're like maybe not paying their taxes. Maybe they should have done an S corp. Maybe they should have done made all these moves. Now they're like looking to hide money, looking to not do their taxes correctly. Now they're getting nailed. Now, like 3 years later, they're gonna go drink because they owe 80 grand because no one told them, right? Or if they told them, they still just wanted to ignore it and do their own thing, which is fine. But you don't know because you weren't around it. But now, you're getting money. You're like, wait, you're taking how much? You're not taking that much. I'm going to write. So you're starting to you're starting to do things that maybe you would have done. That aren't the best. So anyway, that's the big thing too. What I work with is like, let's maybe think about it like this. Let me give you another point of view. I don't agree with, you got to give 60% of it, like it's gone, like you get this much. Yeah, that sucks. But here's what can happen. Here's been my experience. So a lot of it, again, is just like more conversation, more talking about what's uncomfortable, about the unmanageability. I'm still unmanageable, bro. Like I got like a stack of mail that I'll put in my briefcase. I'll take it to work, my desk. It's home. It just moves around. Instead of opening the fucking thing up and paying the bill that I have the money for, I'm still going to want to not be organized in my life. So it's it's just little things like that. It's little things like that. Building a relationship, building a connection that I learned here. Like I didn't want to be connected. I was disconnected from everything, everyone. I always thought as long as I have money in my pocket and a hot chick, that's all I need. And that's how I operated my life. And I heard a lot of people behind those core beliefs. That's another thing that with dads of dads, it's like, let's look at your core beliefs. Let's look at your standards. Let's get honest. But, a lot of these guys, when they come to me, it's hard for them. It's just the program, right? People will talk about, it's a how program, honest, open-minded willingness. No, later on it says that it's a who. No one comes in honest. It's willingness, willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness. You know what I mean? It's like it's hard to get again, that comes down to, hey, I don't get it. Hey, I need hey, can you help me? Hey, I don't understand. I was never that kid asking questions, because every time I asked questions in school, I got nailed and said, that's a stupid question. I just put my head, you know what I mean? So I learned at a young age that just figure it out, or don't say anything at all, because then you're going to be teased. You're going to be bullied. You're going to be like, again, it's all old programmings that now you're taking into 30 years later. Not even necessarily because you drank and used behind it. A lot of these guys I work with aren't even one of us. A lot of these, what I do now with my career is like, no, they're not one of us. Probably in some other areas of their life with the this, the that, the other thing, but the programming is still the same at such a young age that they never even thought to put that 2 and 2 together. Like, why would I even look at? But you know what? Now that you mention it, that's the common thread. Organization is a common thread that I take through not being organized, my career, my relationship, that's one of those things where you can do the same dance for years, but it's going to be the same dance. The only thing that's changing is the music. You're still doing that old, you know what I mean? When you go out to the dance floor, you know that one good or 2 dances, and that's all you do. Well, you bring that habits in your life, and it shows up in your in your relationship, in your career, in how you interact, so it's all very old programming that we take a look at, and that I'd like to take a look at too, so you don't get put in. So back to wherever that came from. But, with a lot of these guys that, that come in with nothing, like me, 2 years, 3 years, okay, I want to get this, I want to get a car, they want to get all this flash stuff. I'm like, okay, let's look at it. Let's think about it and again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not this thing. What I am is just someone that's made all the wrong mistakes. I've course corrected it
I love that.
in
Course correct.
you know what I mean? I've course corrected all the mistakes in my finances, in my romance, in my career, in my like all that stuff. And I'm here to like share with you now, like this is what can happen if you go down, you know, if you go upside down in credit card, get in the debt and do into this. Because at the end of the day, that's what I see. It takes a lot of us out. Not even like the normal people. The normal people will just jump into something else and some other addiction, some other vice, and they won't think twice about it. But for us, as sure as the day is long, I know that resentment is the number one offender. You make some of these decisions in business. You keep hurting girls. You keep running through that whole gamut of women. You will, if you don't drink or use again. I know a lot of guys that the ego was so big, so heavy, so much shit was talked around the rooms. They couldn't do that, but they end up putting a bullet in their head, or they end up swinging from the rafters. They're not drinking. They're not using. But they can't possibly fathom some of the destruction that they've caused, and they're sober. A lot of people like to hide under that. Well, I'm sober, or this, that. So it's another thing when it comes to sobriety, because I know this is sobriety. I'm not like a big like, well, my alcoholism's acting up again. I stole. No, you're a thief. Well, my alcohol is acting up again. I'm an asshole. No, you're a fucking asshole. Like it's clear in our literature what an alcoholic is. Don't lump in all your other shit. You have other shit. We can help out here. We can suggest here. You know, it's not because you're an alcoholic because you pulled someone out of their car. You got fucking anger issues, bro. Like you're angry. There's some type of deep-seated anger inside of you. But let's take a look at it. It's something coming. Let's follow it down the rabbit hole. Let's write on it. Let's talk about it. Like, if not, it's just going to keep showing up. What we resist will persist. Like straight up. In some other area of your life, it will. In your marriage, again, in your career, there's only so much that's going to show up in where there's only so many places you're going to be able to hide before you're going to have to look, and it's going to reflect you, and you're going to see it. And what are you going to do then? You're still gonna you want to do the Fred Astaire like my dad used to say. You want to do the side step. You know what I mean? You want to do the get out of the way. Like, what do you want to do about it? How are you going to handle it?
Exactly. I love it. Absolutely love it. True. I think that is the key thing. The alcohol is just the alcoholism is just a sign of all the trauma and of all the shit that is going on in our life, often enough where we have not learned to be the comprehensive man. Or, I mean, we are talking a lot about men in this interview, which is beautiful. Is we poor men never get a say in sometimes, and that's really, really good. We need to talk about that masculinity, but the same applies to women. The same applies to non-binary. We all are a little bit screwed. We all are bloody chimpanzees in front of a keyboard. And
everyone has
step around. Yeah.
Everyone has like first thing that I realized, and again, everything again is on the back of the program. And what I learned is though the people that I've worked with, I don't even like to say sponsor, I just say work with. But the people that I've worked with over the years, early I started, I was sponsoring really young, and man, I couldn't believe I was, there was successful, wealthy movie star, like genius. It doesn't matter. Like we are all just human. That's why, like early on, I said it's just, we're just humans. We're human. We're just at the end of the day. And sometimes when things fall apart, and when we do this, and we get caught there, and we get here, and before you go out and either find a bullet, a bridge, or a bottle, like it's like, bro, you're human. It's okay. You can get through it, no matter how big your mistakes, because. It's funny because, and I've heard this, and everything I've heard, right? And things original, but alcoholics are these people with feelings just running around looking for someone to hurt them. If you sit in your feelings long enough,
beautiful.
You know what I mean? If you sit in that long enough, in that self-deprecation, like, yeah, you're not going to drink, but you could do something that's just, you're not going to come back from, So that's one of the bigger things for me too. It's like, yeah, I don't want you to drink. I just don't want you to die, but I want you to realize that We're all human. We all make mistakes. And I think that's in the, in the connection with someone, you realize that. And I just thought everybody had it figured out, bro, for a year. And I got sober at 33. Up until that point, even at 35, I thought everybody still had the secret handshake that I had no idea what it was yet. And I just, how am I going to find that out? But, but it wasn't until I started working with guys and I said, married guys, single guys, successful guys, non-successful, like, wow, everybody kind of has the same, like, the same feelings, that's why they say, look, the similarities, not the differences, listen for your story, listen to how that made you feel, and so a lot of the work is like around that. And it's hard, as seeing people when they're not really ready to accept that or hear that or come to the realization of how fallible they are, because for whatever reason, age, money, a lot of guys that I've worked with too, it's hard to get their head around the power greater than themselves, because they do come from good means, or they are wealthy, and that's their power. That's their God, is money. So it's hard. It's hard for, and my sponsor told me a long time ago, my first sponsor, I had him for 15 years. He said, he goes, the bum in the street has a better chance of getting sober than anybody with money. I was like, why? Why, Danny? Why? He goes, because their God is money. They don't need a God. It's just one of those things that's like, wow, that I see now, hindsight, you know what I mean? Like, oh, wow, now I know what he means. I can see how, again, some of the things I work with in Dad of Dads is it's just energy. Money is an energy that we look into, and why it is. And because a lot of us have one of the biggest, I like to say, and I keep jumping from Dad of Dads to program to AA, but it's like the two problems that are two of the biggest parts of our lives where the fears manifest. Everything comes out of pink or green, romance or finance. So it's either below our belts, right? It's either with our dick or with our pocketbook. Those where most of our fears sit. And that's where every character defect festers out of those two. We get a good handle on that, and we have a better chance with this other stuff. So I'm always quick to go look at that. You know what I mean? Like how we're doing there, what we're doing there, what we're not doing there. How could we be doing better there? Because that's where our fears lie. It's hard.
I like.
Pink or green.
Oh, Drew, you have got an amazing insight. I love it. And I love the honesty, the transparency, the authenticity of it all. Because that's really by living up to these characteristics, by putting as much of that into our life, we can turn around whatever path we have been on. We can actually course correct. That is a really beautiful way of saying that. And most of the times, we all are wrong. If you're flying from beautiful New Zealand to LA, if you look at the times that your pilot is truly on course, that will be about 1% of the time. Most of the time, the plane goes like that, and there's constant correction so that you end up in the right place. So that is your life. And we unfortunately have not accepted that. And we are often get drawn into a multitude of directions, and we're losing our compass. And I think that is so important. So I think the best thing you can do in your life is to actually surround yourself with people who are a bit further down the path than you are. And that's exactly what you offer with your Dad of Dad program. So Drew, tell us a bit more. If people want to know more about the program, about yourself, where can they find you?
The best ever that I use is Instagram. It's on Instagram. It's at dad period or dot of dads. So there's DAD period OF period DADS. And you can see, you could just follow, you could follow everything that I do on there in my story is just, it's just a, Yeah, it's just an invitation into how I conduct myself
Beautiful.
and what I do.
Beautiful.
Dad of dads, though. But yeah, that's the thing that is important to me now, is because it's important, to what I have. It's relative to what I have going on, is to build you up as I hate saying man, as a masculine man, as a father, so you can help your children and be there for your kids, because I had such a lack of that, for me growing up. So that's my purpose, as far as long as helping another sick and suffering alcoholic. That's a given. I do that all day, throughout the day. But the next thing for me now, is being a later on in life father, is really mentoring and coaching some of these young guys. And you don't even, there's just so many with depression, anxiety, like all these things, again, that they've been told. Kids have been slapped on Ritalin at 7, and now they're 27, and they're like, wonder why their everything's just shot, why they're so scared, why they're so, we've, I don't know, we've this, that, but my mission is just to help these, just to have even a conversation. Don't even hit me up again at Dad of Dads. Any questions, anything that I could ever anything you've liked, you didn't like, I'm always there, man, just to get a conversation going. Cause like I said, for years, until I found the drinking and drugs, I just thought I was so different but we're not. One of the things that I love to say is, like, I'm more like you in my character defects than my character assets. And I got to remember that. That's why, Carl Jung said, what irritates us in others will lead us to a better understanding of ourselves. Right. So, when you're sitting in a room and you're like, oh God, that, or this share guy, that, like, oh, well, you're looking at a mirror right there. You know what I mean? You're looking at the mirror. So I'm more like you in your defects than your assets. And I want to help you to change those defects into assets for someone else, so you can help another person.
Very nice. And that's what this is all about. Because by becoming better versions of ourselves, we become the models, we become the leaders, we become the people where we can look back on our deathbed and say, okay, maybe I was an asshole in my younger years, but then I turned around and I'm actually proud of who I've become. And who can say that when they're young? Everyone feels out of sorts. Everyone feels screwed and feels being an outsider. Doesn't matter if you're whatever gender, race, color. Doesn't matter what your convictions are. Everyone feels out of sorts. But it's
everyone feels awkward. There is always an awkward. Some people,
absolutely.
Everybody that picks up a drink doesn't become an alcoholic. They go, but that doesn't mean that they're not. But everybody feels this tension, this awkwardness. And my wife told me this one too. For the alcoholic, she's a normie, but for the alcoholic, it's that. And I think this is someone that anybody can relate with. Period, hands down. Something that everybody can relate with is trauma. And so trauma loads the gun, and circumstance pulls, and our environment pulls the trigger, what we're around.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it.
We all have it. We all have some sort of childhood something, good, bad, or indifferent. If you follow the rabbit hole, if you're honest, if you're transparent, if you could really get to the nuts and bolts of why you are why you are with your fears, with your anxieties, with your insecurities, it all just, again, but it's a long process, but yeah.
So true. So
I like that trauma loads the gun, and our environment pulls the trigger.
Hell yes. Drew, we two could talk for hours, and that is beautiful.
I would love it.
Maybe we should. We need to come back and maybe talk about other things like the toxic masculinity, or talk. There's so much we two could talk about.
Oddly enough, I have an opinion about that too. Could you imagine that? Stephan, could you imagine that?
So, guys, look forward to part 2, which is no doubt coming into due course. No doubt. Drew, you're an amazing man. Keep going with what you're doing, because you're a beacon of hope there, and that is exactly what we need in nowadays world. We need to show that there is hope. We need to be out there, and every day is an opportunity, and let's not waste the privilege of choice, waste the privilege of taking action. We can do that. So Drew, thank you so much for coming onto my show, man.
Thanks for having me, Stephan. I appreciate it. It was great. And again, it's at of.dads on Instagram.
Cool. And
Thank you so much.
And you guys out there, look after yourself and live with passion. Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turning around.